Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business and share them with us that we can learn as well. As always, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Ryan Kauth. He's a human first business coach for serial founders and owners of multi-generational family businesses. So Ryan, thanks for being on the show. And I want to start off by asking you a question that I always start off with, which is this: if you somehow had a time machine and were able to go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
I would have told myself to be less of a perfectionist.
Yep.
And I work with this with my many of my clients, especially serial founders or the founding the founders of family businesses who are now looking at kind of the next generation, their children coming in
Mm.
and owning the company. Mainly because they will get upset at the fact that their children don't want to run the business like they did.
Yeah. 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 I think it's a good thing, but it's also can be quite a challenging
Exactly.
thing when it's your baby.
Right.
You've built it and grown it. When
Yep.
you look at that, particularly, um, I mean, you're dealing with businesses that have been around for a while. But what are some of the bigger challenges that you faced when it comes to client generation, client acquisition, and maintaining the clients that you have?
Yeah. I think, the good and the bad about being a coach or a consultant is that you're always looking for that next client. But really, it's no different in business. How do you get clients? Well, it might be through referrals, it might be through ads, and there's everything in between, right? Um, and so when I look at that for myself, there's basically two things. One is, am I sharing what I know? So, in other words, kind of some content marketing per se. And then number two is, you've gotten clients before, you're probably going to get them again. So just relax and kind of enjoy the process of putting out that content that can help people.
Mm, yeah. Is there any particular things that you found that helps with uh, being able to attract those clients, look at maintaining clients as well? Because yeah, coaching there oftentimes there's a lifespan with a client when you're coaching them.
Right. Mhm.
But what have you found to be some of the challenges with that, but also the learnings that you've had from that to solve that for you?
Yeah, I mean, a vast majority of my clients come from referrals of current clients or people that I know or people that have gotten to know me by reading my content, my articles, watching podcasts like this, and things like that. So again, for me to be consistent in putting that content out there um, seems to be the most important thing. And then, obviously, like any business, doing a good job, right? So one of the things I tell my clients is, imagine you have a restaurant, right? I'm not a chef, so I can't make your food taste good, right? If I'm coaching you and the food is bad, that's, that's something that I am not a coach for you for. But I can help you be a great founder. I can help you operate your business and things like that. But the one thing I can't do is I can't make the food taste good.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you say this. I'm reminded of the example when I was in college around McDonald's, and we hear about this a lot. Everyone can make a better burger than McDonald's,
Right.
right?
Yep.
But it works because they got the systems in place, which is
Hmm.
what I'm hearing you say around that, which is Totally key, totally key. So
right?
that's amazing, man. Well, if you look at back at the course of your business, one of the things I always love to ask is, what's the biggest challenge that you faced so far in your business? It could be anything. It could be operations, management, people,
Mhm.
whatever. What's the number one biggest challenge you have faced, and what's the lessons that you've learned from that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge I've faced really is um, trying to, while being a generalist to a degree, I have to be a generalist for a niche. And so, working with founders is one of those niches. And then, as I started working with founders, working with serial founders and family businesses, um, that's been kind of where my coaching practice has led. I started out, my first two clients were general managers of companies that were buying them from the owners, and now their families were concerned that they would never be home.
Mm,
And those two clients came like right away in the beginning of my practice. And so from those things, I learned, and by the way, I learned a ton of stuff from my clients, which is actually, I find the fun um, in coaching. But one of the things that I learned back then, which then got put into a book called Being Coachable, which was co-authored by Marshall Goldsmith, who is probably the coach of coaches, right? Is you actually have to actively seek feedback from people that will be truthful about how you occur to them. And so you don't want to surround yourself with the perennial yes people, right? You want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you who will tell you the truth because they either care about you or at least they care about the business and their jobs. So those were the things that I learned from those early experiences. Um, and I've taken those into um, my client relationships, when I teach college, my students, and things like that.
yeah, yeah, I love that. One of the things that I think is, I'd love to get your feedback on this because in theory, I think we all know that we need people around us that can tell us things and, want to make sure you have people that are honest and all those sorts of stuff. What, and you kind of alluded to this, it might have actually been before we started recording, but it's one thing to theoretically bring people in that can tell us stuff, but it's another thing to actually let the ego and pride and lay that
Hmm.
down to actually hear it and apply it.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning something when a generational business is being passed to their kids, there can be that friction. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on that and what you found to help people kind of deal with the understandable nature of
Hmm.
not wanting to let go,
Yeah.
but also that's the bottleneck where they're wanting to get as well.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be both open to change and also open to feedback. So everybody says they're open to change, generally speaking, but many people don't want to hear the feedback. And then
Mm,
once you hear the feedback, which typically is not make you feel good, then you have to take action on that. And action is taken only when there's inner alignment. And so what I do with my clients is I walk them through inner alignment first before we even try to fix anything. Because if they're not aligned uh, that way with what they want to do, they're not going to
mm,
take action. And,
yeah,
and quite frankly, I'm a coach. And so if my clients don't take action, they will get nothing out of the time we spend together.
yeah. When you say inner aligned, can you expand
Yeah.
on that and what that means?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really comes down to your values and then your priorities.
Mm,
And as our lives progress, our priorities change. So, for example, if you think about what your priorities were as a older teenager, they're probably different in your late 20s, right? No matter what happens to you. So, you have to constantly purge your quote unquote priorities to make sure that you are going down a path that you want to go and you're not being pulled in these different directions from things that used to be priorities and they really aren't.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, when you look at the next, let's say 2 to 3 years of your own business,
Mm.
what are you looking to achieve?
I'm looking to achieve to help more serial founders, to help more multi-generational family businesses that are in complete disarray. And what I really want to impress upon those companies is that you are not going to agree on everything, but you absolutely can move forward in what I call multi-generational harmony, meaning you are all on the same page, as hard as that sounds. And because you're all on the same page, because you are um, looking at two different things that will help you get on the same page, it is possible and it can be done. And if I do those things, then obviously my business grows or stays at a size that I would like it to be. And quite frankly, again, one of the reasons I like to coach is I like to learn. And so as I learn different things from different clients that can help other clients, that's another goal that I always have to make sure that I am taking the time to understand what I'm learning
Mm.
and being able to then kind of turn that around and help others based on that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Are you doing anything in particular that is helping you move towards that will like any like specific key things that you're working on to help you move towards those goals?
Yeah, I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy. I like to rather look at my strategic priorities for the
Yeah.
year. But I have one for 2026, and that is to write more. And so what that is going to force me to do essentially is number one, calendar everything,
Mm.
which I've already done, and then two, start looking at that notebook that I have and going back and looking at those things I've written down that I've learned, and can I take that theme, write a few hundred words about that, especially in a client scenario where it's helped a client, um, and just move forward from there. So yeah, my one big thing for 2026 is to write more.
Yeah, love that, man. Love that. That's really cool. Well, for people that are looking to learn a little bit more about what you do and get in touch with you, Ryan, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, actually, the best place to meet me is on LinkedIn. Connect with me,
Mhm.
message me there. That's what I like the best. And my contact information's there as well. But I do have a coaching website, which is ryankauth.coach. And I do have one um, offering out there, which is for serial founders that are burned out, and getting you back to where you want to be.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I definitely recommend everyone check those places out that Ryan just mentioned there. Definitely worth a chat if you have resonated with him in anything that he said today. Ryan, thank you so much for sharing some great tidbits of information that I know will really be helpful to everyone listening. So thank you so much for that. And as a reminder for everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. And the link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.